Thank you so much for joining me today. Today we're going to make red beans and rice, and I'm going to be using the ham bone that we have left over from our Christmas dinner. And I must confess, I've not made this recipe before, nor have I ever used a ham bone. I've always just given it to my dog. She loves ham bones. So I decided that we were going to try this new recipe today. So let's get started. We need the dry red kidney beans. So I've got those in here. I'm gonna use them dry. I'm not gonna pre-soak them. So let's just get started and we'll get those all rinsed and see how it goes. And first what we're gonna do is examine the beans and make sure that there's no rocks in here. Make sure that they're just nice and rinsed. Make sure there's no beans that are gonna float to the top. Those are beans that we probably don't wanna use. So let's just see if we have any bad pieces. And there's one, and there's a half bean. Let's get rid of that. All right, all the others look great. You always wanna make sure and rinse your beans though. Even though it says maybe on the bag that they've been triple washed, you just want to make sure that there's no dirt, rocks, any residue left on your beans. All right, we'll let those finish draining. And then what we're going to need is we're going to need to just go over to the stove and start putting in some oil, some vegetables, and get it started. All right, we'll see you over there. All right, to the stock pot, we're just gonna turn it on medium here. We're gonna add a couple tablespoons of oil, and this is olive oil. Let that heat up for a minute. And then we're gonna add a cup of onion. We're gonna add 1 green bell pepper that's been chopped, and also a half cup of celery that's been chopped. I just used 1 stalk of celery. I used basically half a cup or half an onion and a whole green pepper. So the measurements may not be exactly what my recipe calls for, but pretty close. We're gonna get all those vegetables sauteed, and then we're going to add in some garlic, minced garlic. Just let that all sit for a minute and saute, and then we'll add our chicken broth. So let's get this step going here first. All right. And this is our onion. And our bell pepper. And celery. This rice and beans recipe interested me because it's not necessarily soup. It's thick and not real watery and runny, and so it's going to go perfect over some rice, and we're just going to use white rice to put it over. We're not big soup eaters at our house, so was looking for a way to use this ham bone, and I knew that beans would be a great pairing with that, so that's what made me decide to try this today. All right, we're ready to add our garlic. We're gonna add 1½ teaspoons of garlic. or however much I have in my jar, it looks like. Ready for a new one. I love the smell of onions and peppers and celery sauteing. It just smells so good. All right, got that in there. Give that a stir for just a few minutes. All right, gonna add our low sodium chicken broth slowly. And since my beans are not pre-soaked or they're still hard red beans, this is going to take a while, and it's just going to simmer on the oven or on the stove. And I will need to be checking it to make sure that we've got enough liquid in there that will keep the beans covered while they're cooking. So I will be needing to add more water to this eventually. All right, let's add our 2 bay leaves to this. There we go. And we're gonna add some parsley. Actually, we're gonna add thyme first. We're gonna go with a teaspoon of thyme. I love thyme, so we're gonna do a heaping teaspoon of that. A couple teaspoons of parsley flakes that are dried. All right. Give that a stir. Add our beans in there also. All right, and we've also got our ham bone that we're going to add. There we go. We're going to bring this to a boil. Got a bean that decided to float. I think we'll get that out of there. If you've pre-soaked your beans overnight, then you really only have to cook this for 1.5 to 2 hours, just until the beans are tender. I'm anticipating this will take possibly 3 to maybe 4 hours. I don't really know, so I'm just going to be checking back on it as the day progresses. But we're going to get this boiling. And we are going to be putting some kielbasa sausage in this. That'll add more meat. And I do want about 1 cup of ham. So if the ham bone doesn't have 1 cup of ham on it, then I'll just add some diced ham that we had left over. So I'll be putting that in there also, but we won't be doing that till right at the very end. We just want this ham bone to simmer along with the beans and release the meat so we can get it off of there. All right, it sounds like this is starting to boil. Oh, it sure is. Oh, that looks so good. It smells so good. I just absolutely love the smell of thyme. I like the taste of thyme, and it's very fragrant in here. Okay, so our next step is to leave the pot covered, reduce the heat to where it just simmers, and it's going to simmer for at least 1.5 to 2 hours, and we will be back and check it then. It has been let's see here, about 20 minutes, and I wanted to check and see how this was doing. And already it looks like we need to add more water, so I'm gonna do that right now. So we wanna make sure and keep those beans covered. So we want them to cook until they're tender. All right, there we go. Give it a good stir. All right, so you might not want to wait for a whole hour and a half before checking to see how things are going. You want to periodically check. So after 20 minutes, I needed to add a little bit more water, and we're going to continue to let that simmer. All right, our pot of beans and the ham bone have been cooking for about 4 hours, and the beans are just getting perfect. Our ham bone is ready to be taken out, and we'll get that out here. And then I'm gonna cut it up, and if I don't have at least a cup of meat off of it, which it looks like it'll be close, then what I'll do is I'll add some ham that we have that's left over. So, also we've got kielbasa sausage to put in there. Look at how great that looks. That just looks fantastic. All right, this meat is already falling off the bone. This looks great. Look at that. I'm so glad I decided to do this year. I'm trying to not waste anything that doesn't have to be wasted. So that also meant the ham bone this year. And this was a delicious spiral cut ham that we had. All right, well, that just fell off the bone. That was very easy, and I'll just get this cut up. Look for any fatty pieces, because nobody ever really wants to bite into a piece of fat. All right. I'll just start chopping. I think we're gonna have plenty of meat. This looks like a very healthy 1 cup, maybe closer to 2 actually. But I'm gonna put it all back in there. Okay. There's a piece of fat that, get that out. It's hot, otherwise I would use my hands on this. Get some gristle out of there. Okay, and we've got our kielbasa here also. I'm gonna just stick that in the frying pan real quick and get that warmed up and fried up a little bit. And all I did was took the long piece of kielbasa and cut it in half, and then cut it in fourths, and then sliced it. So that gives us those nice pieces. Okay, we'll get this meat put in there. Okay, we'll let that get. I moved my soup pot over to the simmer burner. I've got rice going, so that'll be ready for us. Let's just get this oil a little bit warmer, and then we'll put our kielbasa in there to get it heated up and lock in that delicious flavor that it has. Okay, let's move this pot back up here. Put our meat in there and our ham that we cut up. Wow, this looks amazing. Look at that. Okay, now we are going to let it simmer another 20 minutes and it'll be ready. All right, the meat has been added to the pot of beans and has now simmered for an additional 20 minutes to make sure that everything is warm and incorporated. I did leave the lid off because we did want a little bit thicker soup or thicker rice and beans. So I wanted to have some of that additional liquid simmer off of there. But look at how delicious that looks. Just all those flavors melded in there. All right, let's dish it up onto our rice. That looks like a very good hearty meal. All right, let's take a taste and see what we think. It looks delicious. You can see the ham and the chunks of the kielbasa. That is really good. The kielbasa is not overpowering, which I was kind of concerned about that because there was a lot of kielbasa compared to the ham, but it is really good. And I like that it's over the rice. It just gives it kind of that hearty meal taste. And I can taste the onions and the green peppers and the celery. It is really good. Thank you so much for going on a ham bone cooking adventure with me today. I hope that you enjoyed it and that this will give you a chance to try it as well.